For the last year or so, your party's been down at least 10% of the Conservatives in the polls, and there's going to be an election within a year, roughly. Why do you think the Liberals in your party are in a position to be able to negotiate with the Trump administration, considering the life of your government seems to be, at least to an election's point, coming to an end?
Thank you for the question. The fact is, we are Canada's government today. We are Canada's elected government. And Canada today faces an international environment of really significant challenges. Our job as a government is to respond to those challenges, and we are. I will also say, I believe very strongly that when it comes to big international challenges, our country fares the best. We do the best job for Canadians when we take a Team Canada approach. And over the past few weeks, I have been traveling around the country, and I've been doing a lot of roundtables with different industry groups. I've met with the oil and gas sector. I've met with the steel sector. I'm meeting with the aluminum sector this afternoon. I've met with the banking sector. I've met with AI leaders. I've met with technology leaders. I've met with the nuclear sector. And all of that has been to help our government understand what are the concerns and what are the opportunities that different leaders across the country see for Canada today. One thing that I've emphasized in all of those conversations is we need to take a Team Canada approach. This is a serious time for our country. I really believe that when it comes to the Canada-US relationship, Canada has a lot of strength that we bring to that relationship. We have a lot of leverage that we bring to that relationship, and the fundamentals are very positive. But I don't want to, and I think that there are a lot of real opportunities for us to do great things together in areas like critical minerals and metals, where we've been doing a lot already. In areas like energy security, including nuclear, where we've been doing a lot together. In areas like the Arctic, where we have a shared security challenge that we work on currently together through NORAD. So there's a lot of opportunity, but I don't want to minimize for you or for Canadians the challenge that we face. And when it comes to a big national challenge, the approach I am always going to take is to say, let's play together for Team Canada, and that's what I've been saying across the country. And I have to say, I, have been really comforted by the approach that I've heard from the Canadians who I have met. I can't say that everyone at every roundtable I've held is going to vote Liberal in the next election, but I can tell you everyone at every roundtable that I have held is totally signed up for putting on the Canadian jersey and getting on the ice and playing for Team Canada in this relationship. And I'm proud of them.
If I may add briefly, Chrystia has mentioned responsibility a couple of times in the last answers. She pointed to responsibility on the question of the filibuster in the House of Commons. She mentioned responsibility in working with the U.S. government, including on national security. And you've just asked about the forthcoming federal elections, which could take place anytime between now and the next year. On all cases, responsibility is a key word. And for Pierre Poilievre, who spends all of his time, including in the House of Commons, thinking about the next elections, he has to answer the responsibility question around foreign interference. It would be totally responsible for him to prepare for the next elections without him having his security clearance so that he can protect his members of parliament and his future candidates in that context. So responsibility is truly a key word for our government, but responsibility also applies to Pierre Poilievre.
It's nice to hear that business leaders are on the same side, but folks in Parliament clearly are not. You mentioned Rona Ambrose in a scrum a few weeks ago. I've spoken to Ms. Ambrose. She was the Conservative Team Canada leader last time. She said she's not willing to work with the government because she's focused on making sure Mr. Poilievre wins the next election. So even if someone like Ms. Ambrose, who worked with you closely, who said's been a friend in this situation, is willing to try and get Mr. Poilievre elected, is it not clear that the Liberals in your government is not in a strong position to be able to negotiate with the Trump administration, who many of those people have repeatedly said they want Mr. Poilievre to win the next election?
With the greatest respect, Mackenzie, I totally disagree. I do consider Rona a friend, and actually she's been in touch with me in the past couple of days. I think that it is entirely legitimate for any Canadian leader to speak up and support any Canadian political party. That is a totally legitimate and reasonable position for people to take. We do have elections coming up, and we live in a democracy, and people take partisan positions. That's how we choose our government. That's how we choose our policies. My own view is that when it comes to the very biggest issues, and COVID was one national example, big international issues, I believe, are another example. We are strongest when we play as a united country, and I am going to continue to call on Canada's leaders in business, Canada's labor leaders, Canada's leaders at other levels of government, to work collaboratively with us on a united Canadian position when it comes to the Canada-U.S. relationship. The reality is, whatever party you belong to, you will benefit if we can succeed in continuing to have a strong, mutually beneficial relationship with the U.S. And the reality is also that whatever party you support, if we do not succeed as a country in having a strong, mutually beneficial relationship, you will be hurt. So I really believe that in this area, this is a moment for us to put our country first and set our partisan interests aside. And that is certainly going to be the approach that I take. And as I say, Mackenzie, I've actually been really heartened by the conversations I've been having. And I know a lot of the people I've been talking to are not fans of every single thing our government does. But when I have talked to them about the opportunities, but also the challenges this incoming U.S. administration poses, and I've been very candid in those conversations, and I've said, I really want your help. So far, every single person has said, yeah, okay, tell me what you need me to do. And I'm grateful for that.
Okay, we've got about 5